So hello, Newark. Hello to all. Tonight we have a very special show. We're going to be addressing the issue of dictatorship. Very recently, there was a video that went viral that pretty much, I guess, starred the current mayor, W.A.G.E Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, biggest city in the entire state. And this video was done by a group entitled All Politics Are Local. We were not able to find this video on the page, but I'm sure that most of you have seen it. If not, I'm sure it's still floating out there. We know that the current mayor, W.A.G.E Baraka, is not very open to criticism or accountability from activists. And recently, there's been a back and forth between him and a specific citizen Africa activist, right? And a lot of people know him. And tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to analyze that video. We're going to go by a few segments, right, to discuss exactly what he said and how he said it and what potentially he could have meant from those comments. There are many people who feel that the comments were geared toward a hit for him, right? I think it could be extreme, but who's to know? Who's to judge? Really, what we saw take place, that I can say that I witnessed take place, was a dog whistle, right? And people became more introduced to dog whistling as of recent when President Trump was in office. He did a lot of dog whistling, and we saw the outcomes of that. But that's not what tonight's show is about. Tonight's show is about not advocating for dictatorship, right? It's for the advocation of having a voice, right? The freedom of speech, right? Because we have other activists who have repeatedly went live over the years, including myself, and talked about how we felt as though we were targeted at different times, how our voice just didn't matter, even in instances where they have a town hall meeting. They use index cards instead of allowing people, which used to be a common practice, to actually get on a mic and ask their own questions. They stopped that. And so we don't get the other side. Even with a debate, the current mayor, W.A.G.E Baraka, refused to have a debate. Why? Because he did not want the other side to be out there. So tonight, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be exploring the other side, and we want you to stay with us and join us. And when we come back, I'm going to bring on an analyst, right? And she's going to help us, like tie this up to see exactly what's going on, to, analyze if there was in fact some dog whistling or some threats going on. So guys, stay with me. We'll be right back.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like this, baby, you a heart stopper.
Woke up in my city, yeah, I feel like Big Papa. I feel like Big Papa.
Nah, you gotta go like this, and like this, baby, you a heart stopper.
Okay, so we're gonna get right into it, and we're gonna do so by showing the clip, right? The infamous clip that's being said to have started up an entire chaotic situation in the city of Newark. And I'm going to show you that clip right now. Oh, wait, that's the wrong clip, guys. I apologize. Let's remove that. We'll come back to that.
Then you become more and more angry and get this kind of foxhole mentality, and you worried about the people who are out here doing work when you really should be worried about the people you meeting with. Because you isolated yourself so much that it's easy to infiltrate and destroy what you've done. The little bit of good that you make it happen can be wiped out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
You're running around here acting crazy. Something happens. Nobody even miss you. Fact people be talking about, I'm glad that Negro out of here.
Right. Right.
That's a real problem, man. And we just we don't see that. And we have to. I mean,
Okay. So that is a piece of the infamous clip that people are constantly talking about and discussing. And we want to remove that right now and bring on an analyst. And the problem is that these comments were insinuatingly made toward a one Africa, and again, who's an activist well known here in the city of Newark. And there has been an uproar about this. First of all, I'm surprised that the mayor has so much to say on the topic of an activist, because when it was time for the mayoral elections, he was very mums. He really didn't have anything to say. We've watched the displacement of so many citizens in Newark rise. We have watched education fall to all-time lows in this city, right? We have seen so much go on with police shootings, killings, drug selling. We have seen downtown Newark turn into a place that we don't even recognize under the tenure of W.A.G.E. Baraka. When he took office, downtown area was booming, right? With stores, food. I still can recall the barbecue hut, Jay's, right? Just so many places. It looks so barren now. And with that being said, I also want to bring up the point that recently there was over a $10 million bridge, right, going to absolutely nowhere that was installed, right, with through taxpayers' money. And I could go on and on and on, but the point is that with all of these issues, right, comes accountability, right, from citizens who want to hold him accountable. So that is what Africa was doing. It could be debated in the way that he did it, but the conversation was definitely about displacement. And these comments were made along with others. So with that being said, we're going to bring our analysts on. So we want to welcome Jody Pittman. Jody, welcome. Welcome to W.A.G.E.
Hey, Sheila, how are you?
Hi. Well, listen, I thank you for taking out time to just join us in our show tonight. I always love your political analysis of different social issues that occur, not just locally here in the city of Newark, but nationally as well. And so tonight, I wanted you to just weigh in on your thoughts as it pertains to not just the clip that I just shared, but I'm sure you've been watching this entire situation unfold. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on any aspects of that to begin with.
Cool. So first, let me say, Sheila, you always call me an analyst. So I don't know if I'm a political analyst at the heights that some folks would say I was not. However, and it doesn't really matter, right? So, and I'm nervous because it's so much to unpack.
It
and
is
it's kind of hard to lay out this particular leader, right?
right.
So I
Well,
saw a video. I have to be honest, right? So I saw a video with a couple of gentlemen talking about this issue, and they had horned in on the one issue of the mayor or someone saying during that broadcast that they were going to smoke them out, right? And it was as if he had made a threat against someone's life. And I think that the biggest problem that we have, right, in our communities is we kind of like the sensationalism of when something happens, right? We kind of grab on to a narrative that is most dramatic and gets the most clicks and is the most non-essential, right?
okay.
Because I think in bigger, my opinion, right? When I looked at the video of the full interview of just the mayor, right? I thought I saw so much more that I think people have to recognize, right? If someone had covered up the faces and no one knew who that person was and just read most of the statements that the mayor said in that interview, right? And someone said, who do you think they're talking about? The person would have said the mayor, right? Because everything the mayor said in that interview was actually who he has been.
And
Right?
that's important to know. And with that being said, Jody, let me just go in for 1 second and share a clip that I started to share earlier.
Cool.
That is so important what you just said, and that's going to be the start of this conversation this evening. He said that he would never be a capitulator, and matter of fact, he says it a lot better than I would. So let's add it on and just take a look.
If you don't see that, then you're not a wolf. We got a king downtown, a king. He wants to be the king. He got the English Lost Award. We rolled him over the seas a long time ago. He wants to be the monarch of this place. He wants to control the entire school system. He wants to control the police force by himself. No police chief, just him and his flunky. That's what he wants. He don't want a school board. He wants him and his flunky running the school board. He wants to privatize the water. He wants to raise your taxes and make you pay because they're urbanites are saying you don't pay enough. But most of you pay all the time and too much. That's what he want to say. He want to do this and beat up our families and beat up our families until we get out of here so he can come and take it from us. But not on my watch. Whatever they say, they can say whatever they want to say, but they ain't gonna never say I was with them. They can never say we ain't fight back. That's right. History will never record me as a capitulator. History will never record me as somebody who took the money and turned my head, who stopped speaking loudly, who went with them out of the convenience because they gave me a job or they days of my life, history will always say I was opposed to these people to the very end, and I'm
incredible. I'm sorry. Incredible. That has to be the most historic video of who he presented himself to be prior to election, right? And it just goes to really show and completely illustrate what you just said in terms of what he's saying at that time about Cory Booker. He was describing himself. He was describing himself. This is what we see now. He's in charge of the police. He's used the police as weaponry against citizens, right? He's used people that are employees for the city, whether they were for the health department or whether they were for somebody working for housing, right? These people have been used as weapons against the people, right? And he has the same. I mean, I think an article just came out today that identified in alignment with education, identified one of his best friends, Patrick Council's son, who is also now a district leader, and never mind the fact that Pat Council is his best friend. The now South Ward councilman, and now his son, I mean, the house that you spell nepotism, right, is now the president of the Newark Public School Boards and board. And then you think about people like people who are very intelligent, who once, McCreary, right? People like Carl Sharif, and whether or not you agree with their policies of voting or Shavar Jeffries, right? This caliber of people that once sat, in these seats before Mayor Baraka, tenure started. We look and we see the likes of people who don't even compare, right? And then we look at that tenure, which is a tenure one, right? And we see some of the most dismal test scores ever, right? We don't see trades going on, right? And then we had Phil Wilson, who recently ran for mayor. I mean, not for mayor, but for school board under that, right? Trade, and he didn't support him. And in fact, I can't think of one instance where the mayor has supported a regular independent candidate, right? That wasn't a friend, that wasn't somebody that was going to help his own personal agenda go forward. So in fact, he is that person that he's describing, right? That person who would never be caught or seen capitulating. That person who has taken the money. And we're not just saying it as rumor, right? His wife, along with his best friend, right? They both have records now. They're both they have felonies, and the only business they had was with him. right? So these things could be proven, and it's just like, yo, who are you talking to? When you're saying that you will never be caught being a capitulator, you will never be seen as one of them who taking the money and turning away. And so we bring that to the current interview. The things that he's saying, he's describing himself. Did you notice that, or is that just something that?
So let's go back to the first video, right? That's my favorite Raz video, right? That was when Raz was the revolutionary, right? That was his revolutionary talk, right? You will never say I'm down with them. That man wants to be a king. He wants to control your schools. He wants to control your police department. He wants to take, they'll never say, I took the bag, I took the power and took the bag, right? But he was never a revolutionary.
Mm,
That was a hustle,
mm, mm,
right?
mm.
Because as soon as he got into office, right, and if we think about it pragmatically, right, he beat the establishment. Shavar had hundreds of thousands of dollars, and him and his brother got on the ground and they beat the establishment. They had the people behind them because they were revolutionary. When I become mayor, you become mayor,
And it was
right? And as
campaign
soon
strategy.
as he walked into office, he capitulated because all along he wanted to be those people. He
Mm,
wanted the bag. He wanted the power. He had no intentions of ever pushing the people forward. Power to the people, right? That was never on his radar, but he used that to get into office, right? And then you turn around in the interview of today, right? And you say that that these people aren't doing anything for the people. But if you listen to his languaging, what he was measuring, what, right, was who had the power.
right.
I have the power. They want my power, right? And he actually gave examples and went through this long historic context about the overtaking of the Congo, right? Because he couldn't really talk to America
Right.
because he's been a capitulator, right? He doesn't do anything for the homeless. He doesn't do anything for education. He was Mr. Principal of the school. He cared about the kids. He fed the people dirty water and lied about it, right? He
Lied
has been
about.
worst capitulator to the black race that I've ever seen in a leader. He actually got on that show, right? While saying, remember, this is all because the Black Panther Party in Newark don't have no power. That's what you were saying. They have no power. They want my power. They running around looking crazy. But if they weren't a threat to you, what were you doing having an interview discussing them for an entire hour? Because in our reality, right, Africa in one video showing your capitulation, right, got more views than you got votes. You want an election with 250,000 plus registered voters in the city of Newark, and you won with 13,000 votes. You need to ask Africa to teach you how to reach the people, right? And listen, to make it clear, right? He when he says crazy, he's talking about the profanity that Africa used, right? The fact that he walked up on leadership and questioned them, right? And I even said and got ready, but when we're working for the better of the people, we call our people and say, listen, your messaging is amazing. Take the profanity out so people can really hear your message, right? And so we can know that. So that may have been a passionate misjudgment on Africa's place, that he was so mad at that moment
So
that
frustrated.
he
Yeah.
went to places, right? Okay, cool. But you were a bully. You bullied your way into office, right? He's talking about Africa's movements are violent, right? He calls them a provocateur, right? An agent provocateur is someone who uses violence to defame and get power from another person, right? That's
Right.
the basic definition of an agent provocateur, right?
Right.
But to get in office, you went into Shavar Jeffries' house with him not at home and harassed his wife. You pinned up Eric Dawson's fiance and Shavar's wife at a restaurant up against a wall. You beat people during that election. You bullied your way into office,
Wow, I didn't even
right?
realize.
This dude, and let's be clear, he said it like, this guy just ran up on him one day and was violent, right? Africa told the story in the first video. He said they were putting someone had a $700 rent, and a week later it went up to $2,000. He said, and I called the mayor
He
and I
said,
told him what they did. He said, and then we sent an email. He said, and what did the mayor do? He sent the email to the developer that we were complaining to him about, right? He tried to go through the government. And then you called him to that space. Your brother told him, who's the chief of staff, told him that he could walk through any hood in Newark like he was a tough guy. You've been using bullying since you've been in office,
absolutely.
right? While lying to the people, while doing nothing for the people. He talked in this, he said at one point that they should be spending their time trying to get political prisoners out of jail. We have so many in Newark. That's what revolutionaries do, right? You've been in office for 9 years, my man. You haven't written one letter to get one political prisoner out of jail, Mr. Umgawa Black Power, right? But you wrote a letter for Kabori Tucker,
Yes,
a convict.
I
You wrote a letter for Blaze before you even got into office, a Crip member. Not to say that makes him a bad person, but you writing letters for people. You never wrote a letter, right? You don't know what these people are doing. But more importantly, right, today, I just was scrolling through social media, and the Black Panther Party in Newark was doing their regular Feed the People on Wednesday.
right.
When I tell you, it's kind of incredible, right? A truck drives up. They should be being rewarded right now. He should be telling the people about their good deeds because they're doing the job he won't do, right? When I tell you, it was a line of people, boxes and boxes of groceries, children walking past, and the gentleman Zulu who leads the Black Panther Party making children take pieces of fruit. I watched it for over an hour, and the people didn't stop coming, right? Raz said, excuse me, because I gotta quote it.
Yeah, take your time
In
because
his video or in his interview, he said, what made the Panthers dangerous then is the people love them. Those breakfast programs, those feeding programs, those after school programs, exercising with the homeless, the organizing, all those things, getting people engaged in political struggles, organizing people in the community. People respected and loved them because of that work, because they were filling in the gaps that the government was not filling in. Mr. Baraka, you are not a revolutionary. You are the government. That is what they were trying to do, right? He says they were filling in those gaps, and the people loved them for that and respected them for the work that they do and recognized their power to stand up to power at the same time. Isn't that what they were doing, right? So it didn't come off as savvy as we would have liked it to, right? But he spoke to the people because the people are following this.
that's right.
Right? The people are criticizing the mayor about his behavior, right? He talked in this interview about the police and and how they hold political prisoners. But you called the police on Africa. Said he made terroristic threats against a governmental official. If you ever thought you were, right, a revolutionary, today you are the epitome of the opposite of that, right? there are too many homeless people in the city of Newark. They have gentrified a city and are running the people out, right? That is just real. That is what he did. That is not people attacking you. That is what you have done. You did give pissy water and say it was okay. You did that, Mayor,
Right.
right? You might have fixed it at the end, but you lied to people. You said it was paint chips, that it wasn't the water. That was what the mayor said, right? You
Lied to the
have
whole
he talked in
city.
the video about, he had the nerve to say the people that fight against your right your right for economic freedom are the people that fight against women's rights, and the people that fight against women's rights are the people that stop you from getting an adjustment or an increase on your salary at work, right?
Yeah.
How could the mayor of Newark, right, whose whole establishment, his house, right, City Hall is his house, you don't respect women in City Hall, right? Women have to have sex to move and groove between you and your brother in City Hall. That's factual. You
That's
just
fact.
had a baby.
That's fact.
You just had a baby with an employee of City Hall. You can't stand for women. Those words shouldn't even come out of your mouth, right? Not first child, right? And I'm not passing gossip. This is fact, right? And more importantly, we got to start calling a spade a spade.
Wow.
You know, as black people,
This guy's incredible.
He's basically accusing this small group of men and women, I'm sorry, in Newark, that have organized a sect of a party, right, that is feeding people and watching the sins he commits against the people
Right.
and speaking on it, right? And
Jeez.
you're trying to compare them to those who tore down the civil rights movement. That was what his big dissertation was in the beginning. However, right, clean your house first, because your backyard isn't clean, and you perpetuated so many ills in that community, right? So yeah, sexual harassment and the degradation of women, black women in that city, in that building is horrific, right?
Absolutely.
You can't talk about the police if you call the police on this gentleman because you didn't like how he talked to you. You, even in this moment, he tried to make it about power, that they wanted his power, you know, much like his rap video where he said, us laughing keeps them up at night.
He
His Do
did
It All
say
video with Do It All Dupree. Yeah,
that.
he said that, right?
He
He
said
can't
that.
say, and this philosophy that he kicked that night about they are trying to stop and attacking the people that are doing the work. What work have you done? Really? Right? For the people. In the sense of, and I can only be this frank, black people. The situation of black people across this country is at an all-time dangerous level. But we got to be
Absolutely.
honest and say that, right?
You gotta
That
be.
also from 1968, right, to present day, most black urban centers are run by black people. Let me be frank, black men in large part for over 40 years, right? And we in the worst predicament we ever been. We have to call that leadership out. He talking about somebody wanting to collect a bag, and you've had the most criminal activity, right? The most the drugs being run through centers. Do we believe that No one in that administration knew those drugs was there and nobody was being paid for that? Or the gentleman that was taken out for stealing COs. Are we supposed to believe that you didn't know that, Mayor Raz Baraka? Do you think that Mayor Raz Baraka and his brother haven't made substantial amounts of money on the backs of people? Right? So he once again became the mouthpiece for the establishment against good work.
Right.
Right.
Right. So I want to cut in for a minute.
Remember too. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
There's a difference between a politician and an activist. Right. Our leaders of yesteryear, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, these were not politicians. Sorry, my man. These were not politicians, right? They fought the establishment. You made the choice to leave your revolutionary soapbox that was fake from the freaking beginning and become a politician, right? Because you don't make much money on the ground. He wealthier than Martin Luther King when he died. How could that be? How could Raz Baraka be more wealthy than Martin Luther King? Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, if you combined what they did, right? That's a choice.
You know what? I want to just redirect for a second on some things that you hit upon, because like I said, there's so much to unpack and we have less than 30 minutes to go. And I really want to hit on some important segments of this interview that he also did. In his always attacking of women, once he had there was an event that happened in the South Ward, and he attacked women, saying that single parent women were the cause of crime. I would love to see hear the explanation for how you're creating, if this is true about him having a baby outside of the wedding, outside of his marriage. And I don't like to get into people's personal business, but if that is true, you're creating crime by your definition, right? And then during the 24 hours of peace, there was another time that he said again, there was another attack on women, saying that women are running around wearing eyelashes and weaves, and they don't need to do that to show true beauty. And while I have the utmost respect for his wife, does not wear weave or lashes, as far as I know, but she does adorn or has adorned an ankle bracelet, and that's something that a lot of us that do wear weaves and lashes have not done. So you have to be very careful and mindful of what you're saying to the constituents, people that not only vote for you, but we count on these votes, right, to propel other leaders into office, right? We just recently, I keep saying, we lost Senator Rice. We've lost Sheila Oliver, which I want to unpack too, because he made some references to her. I'd love for you to unpack that. But in doing so, now we have Leroy Jones, right, who's running for his seat, right? And he's on line B. And a lot of that is directly pertaining to the votes that we're losing in the city of Newark, again, the biggest city in New Jersey, because of this type of dictatorship, because of this type of, you ostracize the people and you put them out. So back to Sheila Oliver, he mentioned something about her. I wanted you to elaborate on what
So early in the interview, he says, Sheila Oliver, and we lost leaders. We lost Sheila Oliver and we lost Ronald Rice. And, I'm not comparing them to Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, but, they were like, he's saying heroes that did the work on the ground. And it was weird, just because he made the reference to Malcolm X. I remember that an interview Sheila Oliver did on the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X, when all of the leadership in Newark made excuses for the fact that they allowed the murderer of Malcolm X to come back to Newark, open up a gym and flourish in the city. And the gentleman had witnessed his funeral, where big pomp and circumstances, they put him away well, and Sheila Oliver attended the funeral. And so he interviewed her, and he asked her, like, did she hear that this gentleman had killed Malcolm X? And she said, let me quote it because I got it. Yeah, I've heard it. In Newark, urban legend, when they say the streets are talking, I've heard it there. I think it's an open secret. When he asked her, why was he celebrated as a hero in the community? She said, quote, I think in death, people remember what he had done for so many people and families in Newark. I think there was deep respect for how he had transformed people's lives. I think that it is what we saw, right? So we should be offended that he would put Sheila Oliver and Malcolm X in one sentence, right? And that's, again, when we talk about Black leadership, right? I would never go to the funeral of anyone who killed my leaders, not my politicians, but my leaders that changed the circumstances for Black people in this country, right? That did the work. He living off of that work, right? But they did allow that man to come back into that town, right? They did cover him, and it was rumor. Baraka was quoted on that same documentary as saying, that was innuendo. If somebody got proof, they should bring it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But you thought that you had the right, that you was such a profound leader in our community, that you should have an interview and say or delegitimize the work that someone else is doing, or compare them to the Black Panthers of yesteryear. They definitely feeding the people, y'all. They definitely holding you accountable, my man. They're definitely speaking truth to power and making you stand on that. And you're definitely worried about them.
Yeah, definitely.
If you weren't, you wouldn't have been on there talking about them. None of us should be afraid, right? Conversations that were held in that conversation I saw earlier this week about, as if he was gonna do something violent to Africa. Don't get caught up in the minutia, people. Don't let him distract you from what it is, right? From what they're trying to do. Listen, if they weren't important, he would have never asked for a meeting with them. You got rejected from the meeting. They don't want to have the meeting. So now you should have a show where you try to destroy them, right? But show your ego through and through.
And right? I want to show that clip again, Jody, if I can, because I don't know if you were able to see it. So I want to just show this one more time.
Isolated. Then you become more and more angry and get this kind of foxhole mentality, and you worried about the people.
And look, I want you to pay attention to the reactions of the other gentlemen that are watching. And mind you, the one Zaid Muhammad, he was also in that series, that Malcolm X series, Who Killed Malcolm X, making the comment of what was the comment he kept making repeatedly? Don't ask anybody. It was a comment he kept.
Yes.
What was the comment again?
He kept saying,
there was a little.
Let that go. Let that go.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go. Don't worry about it. Let it go. And it was something to that effect. I think it's a tiny bit different, but that was the basis. So I want you to pay attention to their reactions.
Who are out here doing work when you really should be worried about the people you meeting with. Because you isolated yourself so much that it's easy to infiltrate and destroy what you've done. The little bit of good that you make it happen can be wiped out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Look how they both agree. The little bit that you've done. This guy, again, along with the others, are literally feeding people And they're saying the little bit that you've done can be wiped out. Now, again, I can relate to this because as a person who was able to get 2.5 million toward housing, and he didn't allow that money to go forth to help people in the city of Newark with housing, just because he didn't like that I was holding him accountable, just because as a woman that wears weave and lashes at times, right? Just because I had the audacity to run for office, right? Because I couldn't possibly have loved this city as much as he does because I'm just a native Newarker just as he. But look how these gentlemen co-sign what he's saying. And both of them are his senior.
Yeah, because that's
You running
politics.
around here acting crazy. Something happens, nobody even miss you.
What is he insinuating that could possibly happen?
Fact people be talking about, I'm glad that Negro out of here.
Who's going to be saying they're glad that Negro is out? And is that Negro Africa? I'm sorry, this is a dog whistle if I've ever heard one. And I cannot fathom how the mayor of the city of Newark is really sitting in the back of a dark car having a conversation like this.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's a real problem, man. And we just we don't see that. And we have to. I mean,
why do we have to?
Always gonna be isolated. Then you become more.
This is ridiculous. It's appalling in nature. And what is even, and I don't know which one is worse, but like, it's just the fact that leave it alone. That's what W.A.G.E said. And I want to be very clear that he said, leave it alone. And in the context that he said it was in, like, in other words, this is a very dangerous situation. You don't want to come around here interviewing and asking questions. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. And so again, this has been, like Jody said, very, very detrimental, right, to our futures as a community. And look at our community now. And like I said, nobody will ever identify this mayor as anything except for a capitulator. And during this interview, because we're not going to play the whole thing because it was over an hour, his part alone, and then it went on to maybe almost 2 hours or more for, you know, the commentary that these gentlemen made. And this is a city under siege because right now people are seething about this, but people are in fear. And if you ask them, they will tell you, well, you know that he's a Crip. And I don't know for certain if he's a gang affiliated, but what I do know is that people talk about this like it's common knowledge. And why is it that people are so fearful of you? Because had this been Cory Booker, they would have been 1,000 people down at City Hall going off, fighting, rallying, and everything. No matter what happens, why is it that people are so fearful, right, to hold you accountable? People who have, I've grown up watching hold Kenneth Gibson accountable, watching hold Sharp James accountable, everybody, and Cory Booker. Everybody gets held accountable except for you. Why is the level of fear so heightened in your administration?
Because he rules it like a dictatorship, right? Listen, when a mayor or any elected official, to be frank, right? When someone says, when I'm running my campaign, every director in this building must buy a ticket for $2,000, you're a dictator, right? Isn't that dictatorship? Right? That's or ready, or you'll lose your job. That's the worst part for me, right? And I don't often get to have this conversation, right? So that's the worst part of it, of Ras Baraka for me, right? Is his blatant disrespect for the people, right? That even though, let's be frank, right, you're not ruling a lot of people, right? You only got that 13,000. And people might be like, well, that's a lot, right? But not when there's 250,000 registered voters, right?
Right.
Mr. Umgawa Black Power that's on this video saying that they want my power. They want what I got. What do you really have?
And
Right?
wasn't that Al Tariq Kenny who recently also was caught in the video telling Africa you don't have any
Poor and without power.
poor without power? That's
You're
right.
poor without power. Right?
And common theme.
And they're very, very open about saying that, right? The people in Newark aren't afraid of him because the people in Newark aren't even engaged. Let's keep it real. They didn't even vote for him. The 13,000, I bet you if someone gave me some paper and a pencil, I could actually say the 13,000 are sanitation, city hall, housing authority, and their friends and family. And that number decreases every time he runs for mayor, right? But those people that you're holding hostage, right? I hear stories of people right next to him that want him to leave, but literally are afraid not of him, but afraid of being hungry. That you take food off of the table for anyone that doesn't agree with you. Where he keeps talking about them working in isolation and you got to work with the people and you got to unify. That's the only way you're going to get through. Did you take that message? You don't work with the people. You don't unify anything. You either get down or get out. That has been his theory, right? You can't have a job in City Hall unless you seriously. Women have had to sleep for jobs with men, for jobs in City Hall, and men have to lose their dignity and their manhood and treat you like you are a king.
That's right.
Listen, people could say what they want to say about Cory Booker, right? And he didn't do everything right. None of them do. That shouldn't even be our expectation. The people move. If they work together, the people move progression, right? The people on the ground move progression. That it's always been that way and it's not going to change, right? But he makes Cory Booker look like the Dalai Lama. Real talk.
I can't debate it. I can't.
Real talk. How dare he ever? He really wanted to get rid of Cory Booker so he could come in and be the dictator and own the power. That Napoleon complex with little men is strong. It's strong. He just and he's done that on the back of his people, and he treats them with such degradation, right? The only time he feed the people in Newark is the very old school turkeys on Thanksgiving and at election time. You don't have your people feeding the homeless. You don't have anything that you do on a regular basis for the upliftment of the poor, impoverished, and downtrodden in Newark. You don't have any real programs that help people. When he said the thing about or take your pay, you haven't even paid sanitation workers. They haven't received a raise, and you talking about what it takes to move people forward.
It's the hypocrisy. And we also need to unpack a level of that. We may have to do 2 shows for this, but we have to unpack the high level of the hypocrisy that exists. This is the same man, right, who will look you in your face and tell you like take your job, right? Take your livelihood, have people to try to fight you. He actually sent one of those black Jeeps up to a parent's house who was complaining about their child in the lead water when that situation occurred. But at the same time, he feels totally, doesn't have a problem with bashing Trump. Say what you want to say about Trump, but he was the president of the United States. Why, as a sitting mayor, right, could you not afford the same respect to that man and his title that you absolutely drop the hammer down and enforce for everybody else in terms of you and your title, right? And that's one just one small aspect of the hypocrisy. If you listen to that interview and you listen to the things that he's saying, he sounds like he's identically talking about himself
Absolutely.
through the entire way. If you just go back and give it a listen, because I don't know what he's talking about. He sounds like he's talking about himself.
Yes, he was actually. So who better to pontificate that? Yeah, who better to pontificate it? It is
It's sick. It's
yeah.
crazy and deranged.
Yeah.
And this is
It's
another
pretty
thing.
sad.
I want to add this to the conversation too, and then I'm going to pass the mic right back to you because I want to hear from you because we got about 10 minutes. I want to hear from you. Another thing that's a sick theme of him using some type of sexual thing to talk about people, because I remember when I was running for mayor, I remember he talked a lot about they would talk about how I look physically, everything from my forehead to my body, and different things, and it was like, I'm talking about a platform. I'm talking about social issues. Like, what's going on with this, right? And I noticed that the same thing they did with Monero, who's an activist here in the city of Newark. Again, degrading her according to her sexuality, right? And I see even with Africa, there was this ongoing thing about rape, or like it's always something sexual with them. And if you think about when these same brainiacs, right, signed with a city with a city, a sister city. Well, first of all, you're not even sisters and brothers or siblings with your own people in your own city, but you allegedly was signing up with a city, a sister city, to just be nice, and you're gonna be a sister city, right? It's just a nice thing to do. But no, this guy had a rap sheet a mile long for what? Being a sexual predator.
Yes.
Why is it that that theme keeps coming up? And I'm sorry, I don't believe you. I believe patterns of behavior. If everybody that you collaborate with has to have some type of felony or some type of criminal background in their history, I'm going to believe the patterns that I see. You like gravitates to like. Why is it that people are coming home out of jail, and I don't care what horrid past they had, they go straight into directors positions. And stop trying to act like you're just doing it because you want to see them turn their lives around. Knock it off. Like once or twice maybe you can get that, but when 95% of everybody that you deal with is somebody who's done something hurtful to another person in the community while you're doing hurtful things to people in the community, because let's face it, it's a million ways to die, choose one. So while you might not be literally killing people, right? You kill people when you take their jobs, right? And you go after their homes, because if you take somebody's job, you are taking their homes. I know seniors right now that he's worked with, not just what he's doing locally, but he's worked with other mayors in other towns to take their property too. And it's just the hypocrisy for me. Like, it's just you don't care. Like, why did you want to become a mayor? And then and this is the last thing, and I'm going to pass it to you. We have watched Do It All Kelly, right? Become councilman on his ticket, and he supported everything that he's done. This guy has done nothing but go on a rap tour. What kind of mayor allows, right, for a councilman of one of the wards with the most death, the most poverty, the most disenfranchised, right? What kind of mayor supports the decision for a councilman that ran on his slate to immediately go on a tour as soon as the election is over? He just announced to everybody he just dropped an album. No matter what hip hop fest you went to, because God knows we can't go to Universal Circus because that's not here anymore, thanks to Raz. We can't go to African American parades because we don't have that anymore since Raz J. Baraka. So Raz J. Baraka. So now we have Rap Fest all over the place. And it's almost like, did these people only just want to be rappers? And he has a little video. It's a song in it. I just want it to be famous. And it's like, sometimes people tell you things through the songs and things that they listen to and what they put to the background of what it is that they're saying. And with that being said, like I said, we just unpack some things. I'm gonna let you bring this home, Jody. But there's so much more to unpack from that video. It's startling, it's scary, right? And it's also like Hitler, right? And if you
Mhm.
know the things that he's done, right? Raz has followed those patterns of behavior to a T, to an absolute T. And is this what you wanted to become mayor for? Is this the communist society that you wish to bring to the state of New Jersey as you anticipate or potentially go forward with a race, a gubernatorial race? And do you really think that New Jersey, right, is going to support that? So again, those are my thoughts on that. Jody, I'm going to let you take this home.
So I think philosophically, all of it is wrapped up in poverty pimp, right? What a poverty pimp really looks like, and how they maneuver, right? So where someone will say, um, where you talked about how he do it all as in, and people in general, right? You're going to not hire the best around you if you require as a human being to be worshiped, right?
Right.
So 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 that's why City Hall is is run the way it is, and has the lack of talent, and the lack of, not even talent, qualified people to do the work, right, that is required to move the city forward, right? There hasn't been any of that in his tenure, as far as I'm concerned, right? Especially coming in as the Umgawa Black Power mayor, right? Um you have definitely operated against the grain of what real Black progress would look like. So we know that that is who he is. And so that you can't have any expectations of that to be any different from that, right? And he has, and I hate to say this, but he has mastered the predicament of Black people, and use that against the people, right? Rap concerts, partying in the street, right? All of a sudden, he's a rapper. He rapping on a rap song. He's not saying anything on this song. He's showing blocks in the city of Newark, and every block he showed is a street inundated with poverty, crime, um, yeah, the ugliest, right? He couldn't say in his rap that he had done anything to change that circumstance, right? He just feels like that's all he have to show the people. I did a rap record, and your block was shown, and that, and they will herd to the polls, because our people are kind of we kind of fallen. You don't want to say it in a way that is harsh, but in sometimes I think you do, right? We definitely failed our children,
So
right,
I,
as a
I think I
community.
think I think at this point, respectfully, it's 9 o'clock, so we're gonna, close out for this evening.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
that we can definitely unpack a lot more to go. And as we head into next week, right? I just want to announce that there's supposed to be some type of efforts going on at his breakfast. I think that people are just going to come near and just speak to the disenfranchisement
Right.
on after Africa, hashtag hands off Africa. We don't want municipal leadership ever to dog whistle to get anybody hurt. Accountability is a part of being in office, right? We have a constitutional right to express our thoughts, feelings, and ideas about any given situation. He's done it to every mayor that has come before him, and
Right.
he not to be anybody different that people can't express what it is that they truly think about you. Listen, Jody, I just want to thank you for coming on with us
You are
tonight.
very welcome.
And anybody, we're going to redirect the rest of this conversation to the new Black Panther movement. Shaka, what's Shaka's Facebook page name? Do you know?
I think it's Zulu Sharad.
Zulu Sharad. Please go on his page, like and share what he's putting up, see how you can support him, ask about the efforts that they're exercising. Like I said, again, I think that they're going to be down this weekend at the breakfast that he's having with Charlemagne the God, another person who is on record, right, with something with rape or molestation or something that happened in his past as well. So again, these are all things to consider as we move forward. Listen, thank you for joining us tonight. And as we maintain holding the line, right? So what we need to have happen here in Newark, we're going to keep holding accountability. Thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, have a great rest of your week. And thank you for watching.
Cool.